Hi everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about everyday British habits that Americans just cannot wrap their head around. Number 1, washing machines in the kitchen. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that have actually kind of yelled at me in the comments that lots of houses in Great Britain and the UK have separate laundry rooms and separate washers and dryers and all of that, but it's not as commonplace as it is in America. So if you're coming to America, I maybe could count on my hand the amount of houses that I was in where there is a washer in the kitchen. It's just extremely uncommon in America. So for Americans to even fathom having a washer hooked up to the kitchen is extremely out there and just blows their mind. Now, I understand that it makes practical sense to have a washer in the kitchen because that's where the plumbing is. But the idea of me personally having dirty clothes where I'm preparing my food is a little bit weird, and I'm not gonna lie, it took me a really long time to get used to it. I don't know that I'm still really used to it. I just kind of have accepted and adapted that that's what my life is right now. I don't know any Americans that wouldn't be baffled by the fact that you have a washing machine in the kitchen, unless they have a really old house or maybe they're from the rural area. Having a washing machine in the kitchen was definitely a culture shock and something I had to adapt to. Calling dinner tea. A lot of people will talk about tea time, and I always thought tea time was just like that break you have at like 3 o'clock in between lunch and dinner or supper. Supper's different too. Like supper's like later, like when you eat later in the night. I don't know. A lot of Americans equate tea with sitting down and having tea. So it's that like afternoon tea kind of concept. When I came here and people were calling dinner tea, I didn't understand what they were talking about. The same thing as when they called lunch dinner. I didn't really understand that either. It really baffled me. Now at this point, I've been able to translate it in my head, and I've come to learn that it is just how they refer to dinner sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes I have to kind of figure out the timing in order to determine if it's like an afternoon tea or if it's an actual dinner, or if they say dinner, if it's dinner time, like in the evening, or if it's talking about lunches. Lots of translations going on in the brain. Saying "you all right" as a greeting. Now, I have come to terms with this one a bit because I've translated in my head to equate to when Americans say, "Hi, how are you?" From an American standpoint, if someone's asking, "Are you okay?" they're usually actually concerned. They're usually trying to assess, that you might need something, or that you might be down, or you might need to speak about something. However, in Britain, "you're right" is really more of a casual way of saying hello. And they're not actually asking if you're okay, and they're not even asking how you are. It's not really a question that they're expecting an answer to. More like a friendly nod and just acknowledging someone's presence. I got caught in this a lot because every time, I still do actually, because every time that someone says "you're all right," I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm good, how are you?" And then they expect like a conversation to ensue, and I'm like, that's not really what I was thinking either. So I've had to adjust a little bit, obviously, and just try to remember that it's just a greeting and they're just saying hello, and it doesn't really mean that they want to have a conversation. I don't know that that'll ever become something that's really a habit for me. I think that one might be more difficult for me to get over, but I guess we'll have to just wait and see. The idea of British people calling people mate, even when they're annoyed. So from an American perspective, when you say mate, we're kind of equating it to some kind of friend. Expression of how I went to the pub with my mates, or I went to football with my mates, usually refers to that it's something that, it's somebody that you have a relationship with, someone that you feel comfortable with. I've come to realize that mate is just to acknowledge someone and not really call them out by name. You've never met them before, or maybe you don't remember their name. You might say, "Oh, hey mate, how are you?" Just to have a nice greeting and just be polite in that setting. But interestingly enough, I've come to realize that it can also be used during arguments in like a passive aggressive way. And also a third version of it is when they're trying to show sympathy or empathy. When they're like, "Oh, mate, oh, that sucks, I'm sorry." They probably wouldn't say that sucks, but that's a very American thing. But you guys get the idea. The next one is not having screens on windows. I have mentioned this in a couple videos before, but it's something that is just so uncommon in America to not have a screen. We even have screens on our doors. Like there'll be a door, you'll have your regular front door, for example, or your back door, but there'll also be like a screen door. So you can have the door open, but obviously bugs and animals and whatever can't get in. Now that I've been here in the UK for a couple of years and lived through a couple of summers when there are insects here, but there aren't really as many. I guess that's why it's not as much as a concern here in the UK. But it is annoying in the summer when flies get in the house or bees get into the house. That's quite agitating, but you don't have a choice. You have to have the windows open when it is warm and you don't have any screens. I know that there's things that are available where you get magnetized screens that you can put up over the windowsill. So for the summer, you can still have that kind of screen effect and stuff, which I keep saying I'm going to invest in, but I haven't gotten to yet. But in the UK, it's just not common to find screens on any windows. And it's really odd to Americans. And even though like I said, I've been here for a couple years, it's still something that I find very strange. I'm not going to lie. How British people can have an extremely long debate over how their tea is made. I have literally sat on the couch and listened to British people have the longest, most involved, and most constructive conversations about the correct way to make a cup of tea, the correct way to drink a cup of tea, the correct way to dunk a biscuit in the cup of tea. Things like, do you put the milk in before? Do you put the milk in after? Do you have to have sugar? Maybe you shouldn't have sugar. How many times you stir it? You have to drink it piping hot. If it starts to get cold, it's not worth it. Which biscuits go best with which kinds of tea, and how long you have to dunk them in order for optimal tea absorption into the biscuit. I don't really care about tea culture that much. I don't really think about it. I drink a lot of green tea, especially when I'm sick or I'm stressed. And if I do have a cold or something, I might put a little bit of honey in it. But other than that, I don't really have anything in my tea. I don't dunk anything in it either, which a lot of British people find blasphemous as it is. Coming from America, we're a coffee culture more so than a tea culture. I still don't know any Americans that would sit there for a couple hours talking about what the best coffees are. Tea is very, very serious here in the UK. That stereotype, I have to say, is 1000% true. And I don't know that I'm ever gonna even be remotely interested in whether or not I order any of the ingredients going to a cup of tea. Don't hate. So those are some everyday British habits that I think Americans just can't wrap their head around, or maybe it's just this American that can't wrap their head around it. I'm curious of what you guys think of all that stuff. Leave it in the comments below. Make sure that you click the subscribe button if you're not already. And if you are a subscriber, please consider joining and becoming a member, because we do donate £1 of every membership fee to the Royal British Legion every month. We're trying to raise at least £1,000 for this year, for 2025. So anything you can do to help is greatly appreciated. Can't afford it, no big deal, I understand. Times are tough. So hit that like button, share this with someone that you think might enjoy it. Make sure you leave a comment below. Definitely click on this video right here. Thank you guys so much. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.